Oh, here's Michael. Let me see. I didn't see Michael. Let me add him to the stage. We just talking, didn't you know? Well. Hello and happy July 4th Eve. Welcome to Demystifying Government Contracting. So good to see you all here. I know many of us are getting that barbecue ready. We seasoning and marinating, making the side dishes. The I don't know about you, but I always got to have the baked beans. I got to have the coleslaw. I got to have the potato salad. And if we're really doing it up, can I get some pulled pork? Can I get some pulled pork? But anyway, I know many of us are probably doing the healthy version with some barbecue chicken. But welcome to Demystifying Government Contracting. Crucial conversations and information, all to empower small business success. This is GI, aka Michelle Gardner-Ince, and I'm joined by a few amazing um, experts, and we're going to be talking about targeting your ideal client. But before we get started, I do want to cover a few administrative remarks. So, many of you may know I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs 9 to 5. I always like to give a disclaimer. In fact, let me put that up here right now. I ask that you trust but verify everything that we say. We're not giving out no secrets, but what I can tell you is we are bringing context to complex information. If you Google government contracting, you get millions of results. And so there's no shortage of information, but there is a shortage of context. And so, with that, I just want to say, verify everything that you hear tonight or anytime we're on this platform. You can go to my profile, and the first featured page is my full disclaimer. But we want to encourage you to seek advice of qualified professionals, both in the legal, accounting, tax, as well as your business advisor, because no matter what information we give, it applies uniquely to your business. So, with that said, I do want to welcome two amazing human beings, now three amazing human beings, um, to the event tonight. We've got Lori Smith, my sister in service, U.S. Air Force veteran, acquisition and contracting extraordinaire, PhD, Dr. Lori, also co author and architect of a program that is run by Management Concepts, where she is influencing the future great minds of acquisition professionals. Lori, welcome. Oh, I forgot to say she is the CEO of her own company and the founder of Sowing Our Seeds. Welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. And I am so excited to be here with you, ready to actually go to sleep. I don't want the barbecue. I'm going to forego that today, this year. I just want to rest. So come on,
Let's
let's do
go.
this.
Let's
Yes.
go. Hey, I was telling Lori before we got on, our LinkedIn and Demystifying Government Contracting fans and family do not play. They were like messaging me, Michelle, when's the next time y'all are going live? Where is the link? I'm like, okay. We didn't take off on Juneteenth, and they not letting us take off on 4th of July. So I guess we got to press on. But this is going to be a short but fast session. Next up is Chanel Glover. Chanel, how you doing this evening?
I'm fine. How are you, Michelle?
Good. I'm so honored and happy to have Chanel with us. She brings tremendous value not only to the Los Angeles area, but to the small business community with her business advisory and coaching company. Oh, we got another person that just joined the stage. Thanks for joining. And I want to say that Chanel has been a government contractor. She's been a federal um, employee, and now she is bringing all of that tremendous value, whether it is from helping tech companies come into the federal space, or whether it is the Chamber of Commerce who has acquired her services to impact small business success in the California area. So welcome, glad to have you, lady.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm happy to be here.
Next we got Miguel Michael Council. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's going on? How you doing? Happy to
Good.
be here.
Glad that you are here. Well, Michael Council is co-host of Demystifying Cybersecurity, where they are bringing cybersecurity counsel to the underserved community. They launched a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to do it again on the fourth Thursday of this month. But he is an Army veteran. He is a cybersecurity guru. Just go to his profile. I'm just saying, he got about 15, 20 letters behind his name. But why? Because he wants to make sure that he stays up on all of the tremendous amount of information and knowledge that's needed to bring your cybersecurity success. If you are about to get your CMMC certification, you might want to check Michael out. He can guide you through that, whether he is a project manager, making sure that your systems and your transition to that certification are successful, or whether it is fighting the bad guys. Welcome, Michael. Glad to see you, buddy.
All right. Glad to be here.
And last but not least, I'm about to take the picture. I forgot I got the banner up. Hold on. They can't even see y'all's picture. We still got the cyber security. We still have the Demystifying Government Contracting banner up. Let me take that down. Next, we have Coach Austin. How are you, Coach? Are you able to talk?
Yes, can y'all hear me okay?
I hear you. There we go. I can see y'all. I don't see your face, but I don't see your picture, but
Yeah, I'm
but I
trying to
see your
change the
name.
avatar now.
No
Yeah, I'm trying
worries.
to change. Yeah.
No worries. Welcome, brother. Coach Sean is CEO of Austin Business Strategies, also known as Bank Ready. Coach is a business coach. He is I would call a person who is going to take your company from um, being on one side of the bridge to building the bridge so that you are bank ready for not only financial operations, but government or commercial contract operations. How about you got to know you have to have your back office together? He is about business process systems. He loves AI and is leveraging that technology for success. He's been in the business, almost 20 years now, Coach, bringing
Yes,
that
ma'am.
success. Yes. He is a master at relationships, which is, I think, an area where all companies are challenged, because if you don't know, if you think you're going to get on this train and you're going to all of a sudden be done, you're never going to be done doing two things: building relationships and getting new business clients. That is an evergreen activity. That means it's always going to be happening. So welcome, Coach. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, sister. And good to see my colleagues here as well.
Hey, Siobhan, how are you? Good to see. Siobhan says, hey, Coach Austin, thank you for the invite. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I do realize it is the day before 4th of July, so we're going to keep this short and right. And we're going to do an overview of what we're going to be covering for the next 4 weeks. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about targeting your ideal government client. And the reason this is so important is because I find that a lot of people want to master government contracting, but they go after the money. Oh, I see there's this big contract over here. Let me go over here. Or I see that they're spending this much in the budget and they run over there. But guess what? Let me just say something. That's all well and good that the money is over there, that the contract opportunity might be there, that the budget or there's a large acquisition over there. But if you don't know nobody over there, then all of that does not matter. Let me just say. So that's why I want to find out, are you ready to master government contracting? And so whether you are a startup, you've been in the business for a while, we want you to join us over the next 4 weeks where we're going to be talking about strategic alignment and client understanding. Next week, where we're talking about aligning your mission with customer needs, setting clear and achievable goals, and engaging key, and I'm going to say right decision makers. Because so many times people are chasing whoever's at the top of the organization, but I like to say sometimes the further you are away from the sheep, the less you smell like them. So that means there are people that are closer to the sheep or closer to the opportunity, closer to the requirement that we need to find out how do we get to them. Second, we're going to be talking about second week client profiling. How do you identify and profile your ideal government client? Excuse me. And that's not only, I call it figuring out who is the right person, the right place and the right time, and figuring out how do I find out who they are and how do I tailor my solutions to the needs of the client. And then on week 3, we're going to talk about value proposition and evidence, because sometimes we think we just want to say we're the best IT, we're the best HR, we're the best coach, we're the best whatever. But really, is it, if I ask you why 5 times, can you really answer why you are unique? And then how do we build a robust sales pipeline? We'll be talking about that. That comes under week 4, engaging and building relationships with your client. And I heard, I was talking to Coach Marvin Powell earlier today, had a super session with him. And he was saying, he comes from a sales background. He said, we don't want suspects, we want prospects. I asked him if I could steal that. He said yes. So he says a prospect is somebody that knows that they want you or they need what you offer. They're willing to pay for it. And, they also have the decision authority. I call it procurement decision maker, but I like prospect. Then he said suspect is somebody who's a suspect. You got to find all the evidence. You got to chase them down and figure out, my Lord, do they really want me? I'm trying to convince them that they want me. And it's a lot of work, and they may not even really want you in the long run. So we're going to be talking about that in week 4. So, why should you attend? You're going to hear real world experiences from folks who have been here. Coach, do I have you on stage? I see you on stage. Yeah, you're on stage. Coach Sean, you're on stage. I just couldn't see you. And then,
Okay.
So every Wednesday for the next 4 weeks. So today, let me just ask, this esteemed group of folks who have been in this game, for a long time. If I take, my 40 plus years, Lori, I'm going to give her 20 plus. I'm not going to tell how many she really got, but it's a lot more than that. And then we add Michael's, 25 or, 30 years. Then we add Chanel's, 20 years. Then we add Coach's, 20, 25 years. We have more than almost 150 years of experience up here. I do want to ask, when people are talking about targeting their ideal client, or you're thinking about targeting your ideal client, what are some of the things that you are considering when you think about your ideal client? Anybody can jump in.
Okay. This is Chanel. Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes. So a part of the services that we offer and things I do for companies is to identify um the profile of what their prospects look like based on their services and based on their capacity, because you can identify a customer and your services may align with what they buy, but it doesn't mean that you're who they need at that moment, or that that they're the customer that's suitable for you. So I would recommend that when you're looking for your target customer, make sure you do research on the customer and that you know exactly what the customer is looking for. Can you scale? Do you need partners? Is it a space where you feel uh, you are, for example, you may need to get SMEs, or is it somewhere where you would like to do the business yourself with the staff you already have? All those things matter when you're going into a customer space, because, for example, if you're going into to Department of Defense or Homeland Security, I would just use those agencies as an example. You may want to go in there with SMEs, subject matter experts that are familiar with the customer space. In addition, you may need security clearance just to accept meetings, or to find out the intel you need about whatever your line of business is. So just educating yourself about the level of government you're working with, and knowing that each customer, just because they have a line of business that aligns with your capabilities, doesn't mean that they're the customer for you. So you want to do as much research as possible. Find out who's already there, because like Michelle said earlier, you can see trillions of dollars. I get calls all the time, even from municipalities. You see money, you have to follow the money and do the research on it and find out what the story behind the funding. Are there already projects going on? Committees, associations? Where do you align exactly with this large program? So the key thing is to do your market research. And then when you do find a customer and you get in front of the customer, you have to make sure whatever you're talking about is relatable, and that you're just not talking about your service, but how can your service suit their needs, align with their priorities or their pain points.
I'm sorry, I'm just talking. Thank you, Chanel. Um, does
Welcome.
anybody want to add anything before I'm trying to keep from coughing? Before I ask
Well,
the next
Michelle,
question? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
well, if I can, and just to really just re-emphasize what Chanel is really saying, because at the end of the day, before you start targeting and saying that's going to be my guy or girl, you really need to understand what their needs are. And so when you go in and understand the needs of the government, as well as their priorities, make sure that that is paramount and key, and one of the things that you're really considering as well. And as you understand what their needs are and what their priority are, to Chanel's point, how do you align? Because if you are unable to solve their problem and or elevate, it's about not just fitting in. Sometimes it's about how do you add value. You have to be able to add value to that solution and to their issues and concerns. So what is your value proposition that you're coming in there with, saying that I can do, and I can fix, and I can help? And then also you want to, and to the point about, building those relationships, there are more than one person that's a part of the decision-making process, indirectly and or otherwise directly. So you have to know who those people are and what their roles are. So you have to know the roles and the functions of the program office. You need to know the role and the function of that key stakeholder, owner of it, or who's chartering or that group or that project or that program. Know how they influence the decisions. Know who the contracting professionals are. Yeah, be mindful and understand them as well. But also, too, aside from even targeting the audience, I mean, a particular government client, the other component of your outreach and your engagement also have to be having a legitimate established relationship with your small business development center or small business specialist. Who is your BOS at the Small Business Administration? Because a lot of the big dollar requirements that people do chase behind, to Michelle's earlier point about chasing the money, they require a small business coordination. So anything over a certain dollar value, $25,000 or $10,000, I don't forgot. It's been a minute, but we can check the book. It requires the government to go through the Small Business Administration. They're going to do a coordination. And part of that coordination is them either communicating to the Small Business Administration that despite the dollar value, because people get caught up with those dollar values that are required or mandated to be set aside. Well, you could go above that threshold. And if the Small Business Administration know that there are qualified candidates out there that can do these big dollar requirements, if you've influenced them enough, they'll take that requirement from the government when they try to do something other than set it aside from a small business community and set it aside in small businesses. They'll pull it and put together partnerships and arrangements as well. So the relationship building has to be about not just focusing on one particular government entity, group, or something of that nature, but you need to know who all the key players are and who all influence that decision. And don't forget to make sure that your Small Business Administration or your BOS know that you exist and that you're a viable candidate to do any work at the government, because they're going to be the ones that certify your competency and or advocate on your behalf. So I just want to share that as well.
No, so good, so good. So, one of the questions I was thinking about as you're thinking about aligning, understanding the client, what about aligning your BD people? Because a lot of times, and I know many of you can speak to this, we have BD people. I know they approach me all the time. They're looking at the money, they're looking at the opportunity, but they don't seem to understand the business strategy nor the organization. How can CEOs help align their business development people, whether they're outsourced business development people or whether they're part of the company, get more aligned with what they really need to do to understand and target the right client?
Michelle, Michael Council here. I think the most important part of aligning, people that consult with or are part of your organization is really, your strategy, right? You have to know your strategy and you have to put it on paper and communicate it to internal and external consultants. Okay. So what I'm saying here is your mission statement, your values, those need to be on paper. But when you focusing on potential clients and potential agencies that you want to work with, you need to make sure that you have those BD guys in your strategy meetings, and you show them, hey, this is what that agency's pain points are. This is where we fit and we nest in with them. These are the people we communicate with. These are the values of my company. This is the value we bring to them. This is what I want to communicate to the potential client. And you have to just beat that in because it has to be a part of the culture. They need to understand the culture of your organization and communicate that over to the actual client.
Thank you, Michael. Strategy, alignment, so important. I think that is critical, and it is a missing piece. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll jump in really quickly, Michelle. I had to break off
Yes,
for
ma'am.
5 minutes.
Okay.
So for BD and capture, I will let you all know. So that's a part of like one of our core services because it relates to capture. I've seen all size companies, including Fortune 500, large, small, medium, waste their money on BD. Mostly because they'll hire BD people who either aren't familiar with the customer or don't know how to navigate the space, of whatever level of government that they're trying to capture in. So one thing that's helpful is to hire either people who are familiar with your targets or that have a network of, teaming partners, that potential teaming partners or SMEs, or they know how to talk to government employees and offices and how to foster relationships, because it doesn't matter how much you've captured in another market or at another agency. If business development, that's what it stands for. I see someone's question. BD stands for business development, and business development, you develop the business, you do the market research, and then you send someone to capture, and most of the time they'll do the same thing. That's a part of the same function, but some departments and offices have it where business development people are doing more analytics and research, and then someone else goes to capture the work. Yes, business developer for Siobhan. And then besides getting having a network, also knowing how to foster and build the relationship. To do that, you have to know something about the customer, whether you learn it then or you already familiar. Of course, you want to have an advantage if you're familiar with the customer space. You're going to have an advantage if you've already worked in the space or people know you in that agency. And I'm speaking to your BD person. So I would say do more research on the business development and capture professionals that you hire. For example, if they're going into a cleared space and they aren't cleared, they will not be able to walk the floor and take the meetings. Do they have a contact? How much would it cost you? Because also BD and capture people, they can range from entry level 100K, and some business development and capture people make over $1 million, and it with one customer, with one business. So you don't want to waste your funding and efforts around a BDO capture professional that's not familiar with your customer or that's not making any traction. And then once you make sure you do a strategic plan, and if you don't see any results, of course it may not be immediate, but if you don't see some level of results, then go back and look at that and see if it's something else that the capture person can propose. But I do not recommend wasting 3 to 5 years of funding and you're not capturing anything with the same team.
Anyone else want to? I think BD and capture is part of the business development um, process, but a lot of people who say they're doing BD are really doing not capture, but they're doing business development. They're not capturing the business and they're not delivering it. They're just opening doors, if you will. Would you agree?
Yes, some people are actually, that's a function in business development. Some people, they just bring you contacts, they get you the meeting. So also clearly defining the role and what outcomes and results you're looking for each professional and each department, that is helpful as well, because some BD and capture departments also include the proposal management, the writing, the strategy. So how involved does your BD person become? Because that's a part of their negotiation and their rates, and also your intended outcomes. You need to have all of that, clearly defined up front. What is expected of this person? And typically there's a dollar value in contracts that is attached, or at least some level of success.
Now, do you think I'm gonna ask a question? I know you got to run. This is the last one. Um, I've heard of people, BD people charging, 15, 20, like you said, $1,000 a month, maybe $5,000 a month, and they have several clients. What is in your opinion, what is an acceptable period of time to have a BD person that is um, out there supposedly, I'm going to put that supposedly, looking for work and opportunities and opening doors or contacts for you, but they don't produce success?
For, from for me, that would depend on the maturity of the company and their time in government contracting. On average, if you're a new company, I tell companies that it's going to take me at least 1 year, and I've had some recent 1 year successes and a little under. But on average, per industry stats, it takes 1 to 3 years to secure, like a sizable achievement as especially a small business coming into the market. But some people scale much quicker. So I would say at least 1 year. Now, some people can do it in 6 months, but it's about measuring like the progress. If someone is just going to meetings and sending you lots of opportunities, and you aren't getting meetings with customers, or you aren't leveraging partnerships, what are they bringing to you that you can see as feasible for you to be paying that price? Because I've actually had customers where I was able to turn something around, like with one large customer in 3 days, and they told me they were paying like an attorney for over 6 months, 15K plus for a retainer for the same service. So is also on the business and the owners being involved and being informed about the industry. What are you looking for? Are you looking at a particular opportunity that's 1 year out, or do you see things that are more immediate? Are you looking for them to just introduce you to customers so the customer can get familiar? So it's also about the business owner being familiar with, the customer in some way, and then not solely dependent on a BD and capture person. I I recommend that the owners or leadership get involved, because you also don't want all your business with your customers, or your prospective customers, to be solely dependent upon someone that can walk away or that you may not be able to keep on board. So
True.
some of these decisions are just, based on each company. Some companies have a lot of past performance, so it doesn't require a lot for you to sell them, or they have a product or service that the customer sees as a high demand. So all of those are different factors. But if you aren't seeing results, I would say within 6 months, and not results as in getting an award, but you're not getting meetings or you're not getting partners, then I think you should start to either re-strategize or, like consider alternative measures. But 1 year is suitable for you to, secure some type of opportunity or at least leverage partnerships.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. And many times I think people need to be aware that these folks are working not just for you. If they're outsourced, they're working for others as well. And I
Yes.
sound like you had something, Coach. Or,
Oh, really quickly.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Coach. Really quickly, Michelle. I'm glad you just mentioned that. Another thing you can put, because customers do this with me, you could put stipulations and certain things in your contract to say, hey, BD person, you have to let me know who else you're working for and whatever requirements, whatever, active requirements in this space that you're working on. And sometimes they even restrict people, if they're paying them a suitable amount, then some BD people will even allow for, the customer to say, I don't want you to bid on anything in this space as long, or with this customer, as long as you're working with us.
good point. Good point. I hadn't thought about the contract part of disclosure of who else they're working with. That's good stuff. Thank you, Chanel. I appreciate. We all appreciate your insight. Coach, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, it's hard to follow Chanel though, I'll be honest. But whenever we're performing business development, we've done this for a while now. There's some conflict of interest that Chanel kind of spoke of. So there's areas where we won't operate very heavily. So if it's healthcare, or if it's cyber, and especially with this being AI now, there's a lot of intellectual property we got to be careful of. So we let all of our clients be aware of who we're working with to an extent, what depths. Some clients don't want us working with the same, not with the same customer, but with the same agencies. So if we're targeting certain agencies, certain companies, especially if we're on the private side, you've got to make sure, I would say as an owner, as a CEO, if I'm going to be that leader, I've got to make sure I understand the outcomes that I'm anticipating. So I'm looking for that outcomes guidance from that BD person. So for us, we'll analyze the company, work with them for at least a good 60 days to learn the culture of the business. Because as a BD person, I've got to really know what you do well, not just what you say, but what you do well, to know how that matches up with a potential customer. So companies will allow that. It's almost like an audit. And I'll come into the business and learn them and then give them guidance based on what I see, where they are in their growth phase, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, you may want to work with this particular customer, but you're not ready. Or look, I think you're more ready than you realize for these opportunities. And that's a good consultant guiding person, not just someone that just brings business to the door, but you got to make sure that you're setting them up for success. So understanding your customer before you really take off with them should be part of the guidance framework that you're giving your customer as a BD person. So I'm training a lot of CEOs to look for that. Even I mean, I may be brought on as a BD, but I'm really more of a CEO consultant first to
Mm-hmm.
make sure leadership knows what you're looking for out here in this world. Because you may not use me, but make sure you understand. And then too, Shalom made a great point. Get to know these customers that you're having people that you're hiring for, because you can't lead what you haven't seen yet, and you're
Mm-hmm.
relying holistically on them to give you answers. I mean, some people aren't as ethical and honest as we would think they would want to be, and you're relying totally on them. So, as any leader, and even being called coach, I'm like, you got to go play the game a little bit and understand these customers, so you can kind of check up on what they're doing and be able to ask the right questions as well to make sure you and your company are getting the right answers.
So good. This is good stuff. Let me know in the chat if you all are enjoying this, if you have questions for our panelists. We will be going, a little bit more in depth about some of the things to consider when you're targeting your client. But because it's 4th of July Eve, we are going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to kind of share a takeaway or a lesson they learned, maybe, and it may even have even been painful, a mistake that you made uh, in as far as identifying a right client or having someone help you identify opportunities or a right client.
I'll say for me, and this is kind of recent to an extent, but it's happened a few times here and there, and it's caused us to really change some of our protocols and how we operate as a
Mm-hmm.
company. Uh, to the point where there's the money out there. People are maybe on one side of the table and they're looking at the industry as a whole, like, ooh, I've got all these years of experience doing this at the third. I can go out and knock this out. But you haven't done it yet. As a business development capacity building firm, I have to really understand what you say you know and what I know you know before I go out and take on XYZ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say we can't do it, because we do what we do very well, but understanding your customer before you take that customer out there and giving the right guidance out the gate even sooner than what I was before has bit me a couple times, and I didn't see it coming as much. So the way we even onboard people is different than I ever done before. It doesn't matter how big the company is, how small is a new entrepreneur or a seasoned firm. I really want to understand what you're doing. And just the fact that you're asking for this type of guidance and work, can you really handle it? And I have to be honest with myself to know, yes, I know what you're about to walk into. Let me prepare you for this ball game, if you will. So those things that you learn over time, they kind of burn a little bit, but for the long term, if it makes you change the way you approach customers, clients, and industry, and even government for sure, if it makes you change your policies, that means it made you look inward to where,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we got to address this a little differently, because I'm good, but we're not uh, adverse to fault. So
Right,
once you see
right.
that there's a kink in the armor, let's go ahead and fix that weak link so that we can keep moving forward. So that
And
happened
so,
to us
and
recently, but I'm
sometimes
kind of
it's
glad it did.
and sometimes, Coach, I'm sorry, it's just not the right client for you too, right? I mean, yes, we should
Mhm.
always be in a continual improvement mode, relooking, reassessing, how can we tweak this, how can we make it better? But what I try to remind uh, you know, companies are that the government's not changing the way they buy. You ain't that special. Nobody is. So you have a choice. You either change the way you sell to align with how the government buys, the frequency, the packaging, how they package stuff together, or you then say, no, I only sell this way. And then you go find clients, which may not be the federal government, maybe state, local, education, some other commercial. and say, this is how I sell. And it aligns with, and your clients align with the way you sell. That's your only two choices, because people aren't customizing how they buy to get to you because you're so special. And definitely, like Lori said, not because you're a woman, veteran, or minority, hub zone, or have some special designation. And so I'd say that even as we, small businesses, do B2B services, we're not changing for our clients. Our clients ought to come to us knowing this is how we sell, and they want what we want, so they go through our buying process or cycle. And I told somebody I was trying to hire to help me kind of tell my story. And I had gone through a free session with him, and I wanted to do a, kind of a, consult or whatever. And the worst thing you can do with me as a client is send me through your business cycle. I told him right out, I typically don't end up coming out of the end of your business cycle because I'm that kind of client. So if you don't recognize that, I'm not the one. And I didn't take the consultation meeting. And then I'm going into some business cycle when I just want to talk with you. And either I know that I want it, I'm going to decide whether I want to pay, and it is what it is. So, I just say, Coach, don't be too hard on yourself. That was,
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I like learning, and I like the point you made, and if I can echo it just to an extent of customers, meaning clients who are looking to work with either private or especially with government, you have to be okay with being nimble of mind. You
Mm-hmm.
can't go at it so strong, like this is what I do, and they're going to buy from me this way. Or is the need that you are anticipating to serve, is there a profit margin at the end of that need? Not everything that you see is a need is what you want to serve. So you got to really understand your customer, which is why CEOs have to get out there a little bit. I advise them to go with their BD folks and learn what the customer's wanting and be honest with yourself. Do we really have the scope to address the need that we see? We see the dollars and it looks great. And on paper, maybe academically we can handle it, but can you really get inside, look at some past contracts and say, you know what, if we had this contract, could we really fulfill it? That's got to be you got to really bring truth to the table on that one.
True, true, true. That's good. Um, Michael, you got any nugget you want to leave?
Yes. I just want to say, like you just need to be careful when you're going out to get these services. You need to understand your business, where you're at, what your capacity is, and how that service fits in with your overall business development and client engagement strategy. Sometimes you can get a little bit, ahead of your skis, as they said, over your skis, and go out there and get these resources before you can really utilize them to your best ability. So just be careful. Make sure you do a good evaluation of where you are in your journey, and before you go out and get some of these services.
Thank you, thank you. So true. That self-assessment, knowing what your business is about, how it aligns with the industry and the market is so important. Lori.
Yeah, and I think wrapping up all the little brief conversation that we've had tonight, especially about BD and onboarding, or what that BD person need to do on behalf of your organization. At the end of the day, as we are putting these businesses together, as we're starting businesses, launching businesses, and even if we've been in business for a moment, if you have not done the things that establish the foundation of your organization, you will always be spinning. So the bottom line is that you need to have a framework, a blueprint. A house isn't built without a blueprint. So what's the blueprint for your organization? What are your operational procedures? Just like most of us come in and out of the military, we are in federal government as civilians. There's an organizational structure. There are things that are in place that facilitate the success of the organization or the United States government collectively as a whole. What does your little government look like? So having those operating procedures, because if I understand who I am as a entity and an organization, to Michael's point about having mission statements and values and all those things written down, if I hire somebody to serve in the capacity of my BD or business development on behalf of my organization, that business development person is going to know who I am and be able to speak on my behalf when they go out in the streets for my organization. And two, what we have to also stop doing, I often talk about getting off of the wagon or the skateboard, running behind, we're like ambulance chasers running behind contracts. Just stop. Because at the end of the day, why are you pimping yourself out to BD people anyway? Find someone that's going to be committed to your organization so that you can get the appropriate return on the investment that you are trying to obtain, and or do a reputable business development person that knows the industry and knows the game. Because there are a lot of folks, I know we all got to start somewhere, but everybody starting somewhere shouldn't be you starting with that person to try to make your organization grow if they haven't been in the game and know the rules of engagements themselves. So we just got to be smarter about what it is that we do. And to the point about the services that we go out and acquire, don't just not get things that you don't need. Don't go out and continue to pay money for services and support, whereas then you're not going to get a return on the investment because the person just don't not only not know who you are and what your needs are, they just don't know their craft. So, I mean, quit hiring friends and family. I'm just saying.
and sometimes these are friends we meet online, and they want to tell us about their, what they do and make us, believe we need to have it. But they're only selling the stuff. They're selling the icing. They're not selling the cake. They're selling the bun. They're not selling the beef because they've never done government contracting. They're selling the marketing. They're selling the branding. They're selling the copy. They're selling the content. And some of that is important, but it's important in the context of, have they done that for a GovCon company? I think that's so, because the salesy funnel and all of that is used, by many of the marketing and branding companies, doesn't align with how the government client views a government contracted company. It doesn't, and it's not aligned with how that government contracting firm funnel or pipeline works. It's not like that, And so I think, and I'm speaking out of someone who's paid too much money to do that early on and learned my lesson. That's why I said, if they don't have receipts in your industry doing the same thing that you do or that you want to do, you shouldn't be paying them. You should wait. Chanel, go ahead. I see you're back. Welcome back.
Yes,
We're
Michelle.
closing out.
Yes, okay. I'm going to piggyback what you just were speaking of receipts. That's very important. If you're hiring BD and capture people and they told you that they captured a certain dollar value or they know certain customers, they've been in the space, this is government. You should be able to go identify the customer, have references, and they should have some type of receipts that you can verify, not word of mouth. It's a government customer, it was a government project, or some type of association that you should be able to verify. And the other thing that's very important, because I've had companies struggling with this, make sure you're ready to capture. Small businesses reach out to me all the time. Another one this week, hey, I want your services, I'm ready to capture, and I'll stop them. And I could easily just take the business, but I know they're not ready, because I get customers in front of clients sometimes, even established companies, and we'll get there to capture and they're not ready in some way. Either they don't have the technical staff, or they didn't have the security requirements. So these are all things that I typically would vet and have make sure companies are ready, but some are so anxious, that they say, I'm ready. I don't need you to do all that. I want to get in front of the customer. Another reason why you should not do that if you're not ready, because that customer may not be open to having other conversations with you. And then you're also feeding the narrative of small businesses aren't ready or cannot deliver, when asked of, and presented with opportunities. So it's just something to be mindful of. Make sure you're ready once you do capture.
So true. And it's true when you're talking to small business liaison offices or small business offices or others within the organization, whether it's federal or commercial, um, who are then opening doors and using their influence to get you into doors you never would have gotten into. You have to produce. You have to present well, or that also jeopardizes their ability to open doors in the future for others. So thank you for that, Chanel. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Coach. I'm going to go ahead and close out. I said we are going to end early, but we only yielding back 5 minutes. I hope you all have enjoyed this session. We're going to continue the conversation. Next week, we're going to dive into, what are some of the things you need to think about to understand the client? What kind of homework do you need to do? What kind of research? What are some of the ways that you can align yourself with your potential client? We're going to dive into that next week. So again, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank each of the amazing human beings, AKA experts that are here who generously are sharing their knowledge and insight with the demystifying government contracting community. I want to thank anyone who comes back and listens to the replay. If you've got questions, you put them in the chat and we'll address them in the coming weeks. But I do want to thank you because you could have been anywhere else, but you decided to be right here. And that means so very much. So I'm going to end, as I always do, with the business benediction coined by my sister, Lori. I want to say, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you indeed. May he enlarge your territory. May he make your vision plain. May he order your steps. May he prosper your business. May he keep you from evil, and may he keep evil from you, because we know it can be ugly out there. But most of all, may God bless you, bless you, bless you indeed. We will see you next week. Thank you and happy 4th of July. God bless and good night.
Amen, LLCs. The whole LLC say amen.
Amen.
Take care, everybody.
Happy
Amen.
4th. Enjoy yourself. Stay hydrated and safe because it's hot out there.
I know that's right. We'll talk to y'all later.
And
Good
safe
night.
travels to anyone that is traveling.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hey, happy 4th, everyone.
Happy 4th.